Hello everybody, it's the Alco Diesel Guy, and it's that time of year again. Time to visit the Albany Train Extravaganza being held in the Empire State Convention Center, located up in Albany, New York. Anyway, let's get right to it.
Yep.
To start with, before we even so much as got into the convention center area itself, there was this table here selling Lionel as well as HO scale products. This next table over here had some blue box items that caught my eye. As you see, I took a very close look at them. It also featured a few Walters items.
Oh. It's a hippity hopper.
This next table is still outside of the actual egg itself, which is the main convention center. Had a lot of railroady Yana. This next table featured some O-gauge items, specifically these very attractive-looking Lionel ZW Transformers, which are becoming really antiques and very much desirable classics these days.
Old school ZW. These are some of the more expensive models back in the day. $85 a piece now.
There were also some HO gauge items down at the end of the table.
Equivalent of a 57 Chevy. Wait a minute. What do we have here? Uh-oh. Go around in circles.
Then there was this next table, which again was outside the main egg convention center itself, which had a good mix of HO and N scale. Ended up buying one or two items off of this, including one very rare one. Let's see if you can spot exactly what I bought here, which will be shown at the end of this video.
Yeah.
And here's yet another table that was again outside the main egg area itself. This one had more O-gauge stuff as well as some HO stuff.
He'll leave, I'm afraid. Okay. Okay. Yep.
Then there was this next table with some homemade scenery items and one N-scale item that really caught my attention. Yes, I'm talking about this Microtrains box with the Microtrains New Haven boxcars in it. This next table had a lot of Lionel O-scale stuff on it. Mainly post-World War II stuff, but a little pre-war stuff thrown in just for good measure. This next table had some more post-World War II Lionel stuff, as well as some electronic stuff thrown in just for good measure. And I think there was some other minor repair parts tossed in here as well, and some HO scale electrical components. This next table had another unusual surprise, although it's becoming more common at train shows. A bunch of Legos from various different eras, still boxed up for sale. That's to say, Lego sets. This next table had a good mix of vintage HO scale stuff, as well as some vintage N scale stuff. Specifically some vintage N-scale box cars. Another such rolling stock for sale from Bachman. And believe it or not, we are just now starting to get close to the actual convention center building known as the Egg itself. Just one more table here. This one has pre-built structures from HO&N scale, which are pre-lit. Quite expensive. I forgot what company does these, but they're pretty expensive again. Very highly detailed, but 85 bucks a piece if you want one. And mixed in with these structures was some Lionel post-war stuff. My father got sticker shock when he saw just how much one of these locomotives cost. And believe it or not, this price was a good one, as some of these Lionel locomotives can now go for $1,000 a piece. Now we're finally in the actual egg building itself. The first table had a lot of N-scale stuff, so I took a good look at it. And while they were very clearly taking offers, the only thing I really saw that caught my eye were a few pieces I already owned. Specifically, that Operation Lifesaver P42 we saw there.
I mean, this has more in it. Right. But I think it's $34 right now a year.
This next table had a mix of HO scale and O scale items. Again, all used, being sold apparently by the original owner off, like many of the tables were this particular show, although there were a few vendors here. This next table drew my attention with its blue box selection. Again, I'm trying to find a blue box Alco PA, which I unfortunately did not find at this particular show, in nickel plate road paint in good shape, as I'm working on a project to get one of those converted over to DCC with a modern drivetrain, although that's still on hold at this point. An item that caught my eye on this next table was this vintage Price Chopper train set, which sadly enough is from a bygone era when these things used to be made every Christmas. The fact is, unfortunately, train sets are now for people 14 years and older, and so there's really no market to market these in grocery stores anymore. This next table is an N-scale vendor / used dealer that I usually deal with a lot of times. I ended up buying a bunch of items off of him. Especially some vintage freight cars and a few other things. His locomotive selection was really, really good, and I was pretty impressed with what I was seeing here. A couple items really looked tempting. And I would, as usual, buy a locomotive off this gentleman, one of which I thought would fit into my layout very well. Watch to the end of the film to see exactly what I purchased from him. Now, admittedly, I spent way too much time looking at these locomotives and... Oh, wait a minute. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I saw that. No peeking, Shane. This next table was being run by an authorized Walthers dealer. And, of course, he had plenty of Walthers items, including proto and mainline locomotives. This gentleman had a few other items from the likes of Atherin and MTH, but the one item that did draw my attention was from Digitrax in the form of a DCS 51, which apparently was new old stock. This next table had a great selection of vintage decals, as well as vintage kits, specifically that of the blue box kits. In addition, this vendor had some items from Atherin, Bowser, and Intermountain. And as the shot pans down, we also see the gentleman also had some N-scale stuff, some MTL, which of course now is going through a very noticeable transition to Atlas since they were bought out. Look for a video on this topic, which I'm producing at this time, which will be coming out later. And as you can see by my watch, it was still around 10 o'clock by this point, which is shocking because usually, because of my unusual hours, I'm not able to get myself anywhere near this place until closer to noon. And again, the show only starts at 10. This next table coming up featured a lot of Hot Wheels cars. Again, I noticed this is a new trend in model train shows to see many of these up for sale. And they do kind of work pretty well with O's scale, although unfortunately they're a little on the big side for HO's scale, and certainly way too big for N scale, or Z scale for that matter.
So we're going this way? Okay.
This next table had some clockwork, looks like cars, that is to say wind-up cars, and some old Marx trains from the pre-war era, and some of the random O stuff kind of blended in with it, including some vintage Lionel accessories from that era, again pre-war. And next, I'm proud to announce we are in the presence of a knight. That's right, Sir Thomas. Thomas the Tank Engine was very prominent at this particular table, with a bunch of the wooden variations as well as the die-cast metal jobs, all for sale. There are also some Legos kind of mixed in here, and some magazines with vintage cars, etc. This next table had a nice selection of micro trains cars as well as some Kato equipment. I would end up buying one or two pieces off this gentleman. I was particularly interested in this New York Central set in the back there, as well as that Alco RS2, which you'll see come into view in a second, from again Kato. This gentleman unfortunately appeared to be getting out of the hobby, as he was selling off his Kato Unitracks as well, which we can see for sale on the right there. He also had some vintage Broadway limited sound equipped units to the right of all of these.
Real short pieces and bags, and one of those bags. The real short ones, you know, the real 1-inch pieces. I got the box here.
This next table featured a lot of vintage Lionel vehicle accessories, it appears, and other such collectible vehicles, and some structures as well.
Ich habe kein Geld. Aus, yep.
And just beyond this section, more collectible Hot Wheels cars and other such die-cast metal cars. Again, these seem to be picking up in popularity at train shows. The next table again had some O-gauge stuff, in this case of the Atlas variety, with some Lionel items mixed in for good measure. And of course the obligatory structures, in this case made by Rail King. This next table coming up had even more Lionel O-scale stuff. Unfortunately, it seems more and more that Lionel collectors, as I have been informed, are moving out of the hobby due to being aged out. And unfortunately, this is the end result. More and more of these items are coming up for sale.
Yep, that's a bumper trolley. Receiver hits the bumper and it reverses the polarity. Yep. They don't build.
This next table had a mix of slightly newer and slightly older HO scale equipment, although the prices were a little steep, so I didn't have much interest. This next table had an unusual mix of miscellaneous items, including a TV set, which was quite strange, and some old Tyco kits, and a piece or two of Lionel O-scale track. Just kind of all over the place, to be honest. Again, nothing really spoke to me here. And here's another look at that table from before. This next table had, again, more random N-scale items, boxcars in particular, and a few other little things mixed in. Nothing really caught my eye, if I'm honest. There were a few Bachmann passenger cars, which I sort of looked at, but I have plenty of those right now, so I wasn't so crazy about it. And now we come to a major railroad video and book vendor that's always at this train show. I believe the outfit's called Ron's. And of course, needless to say, as I said before, he deals in the train DVDs and videos as well as books.
No, one doesn't exist much anymore. Just,
Next, we move on to another one of the vendors that's usually there. This gentleman deals mainly in Kato N scale, but he also carries some HO scale pieces from the likes of Atlas, as well as Atheron. He also carries various lighting effects, packages, LEDs, etc., as well as some Woodland Scenic items.
They were drinking that night together. Now, forget it.
I used to up in Delaware County, and I was a long believer in Republican back there. Now I'm an independent.
the extension cables.
This next table had yet more Lionel O scale items in it. And now we come to yet another N-scale, mainly retailer at the show, although he does also carry some HO scale stuff. I would end up buying a few parts off of him, as well as those extension wires you saw me looking at the previous retailers. I found them slightly cheaper at this gentleman's booth. I promptly bought them and a few other items, including one more expensive one, which you'll see at the end of this video. As you can see, this gentleman definitely had a very massive selection of N-scale equipment, as he always does. One of the reasons why I stop here a lot. Again, I was looking for HO scale stuff on this trip, but I didn't see anything much this year, I should say, at the train show that really spoke to me. The items I were looking for just weren't there. There were a couple of blue box coaches I looked at, but not much else. Anywho, looking around here, I spotted a whole bunch of different cars and MLT stuff. I was tempted to buy more of them, given the fact that the company is not going to be with us anymore, but I just didn't see anything that really spoke to me per se. At least not at this particular table. I would buy a few examples from other people.
Much enjoy. Take the receipt with you, okay? Yes,
Hello, guten Tag, how you doing? The locomotive selection here was also quite good. I saw they had quite a few Atlas engines as well as Kato engines, but mainly Atlas. Quite a few things very much tempted me, and as I mentioned before, one locomotive would. You'll see that later on.
She goes, which one? I go, the White Pass in Yukon. She goes, where is that? I go, in Alaska. Oh, she goes, we're going to go on a cruise, aren't we? I go, yes, we are.
So that's why I did.
Now, if you're wondering why I was so obsessed with locomotives, the fact was I was also looking for a very specific one. And wait a minute. Whoa, 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 whoa. Cut it out, Shane. I said no peeking. I should clarify, I'm talking about my friend and fellow YouTuber Shane of Trains with Shane. We're doing our annual locomotive exchange this year once again. And of course, I was shopping around for a locomotive and I just caught him peeking again. Anywho, if you want to know what I got him and what he got me, subscribe to both of our channels. I'll put his in the link in the description.
And we went to Glacier Bay and we had a good
Yeah,
time.
see, yeah.
This next display actually had a lot of N-scale equipment. We start off with some Bowser and Atlas HO scale equipment, with this vendor mainly specializing in N-scale, particularly micro trains, cars, but he also carries quite a bit of Atlas equipment, as we see. And I do wish I acquired the C420s he had here last year. I'm really kicking myself for that.
That's the wrong type. Pardon. This one. Do we remember the so we don't have this one. Pardon.
I don't have to worry. I can't something more.
This next booth had some more HO scale items, including Atherin and Bowser, as well as some old MTH stuff. There was also some Atlas locomotives, as we see on the bottom there, and some other O-scale items thrown in. This next spoof attracted my attention. While the guy did have some Alco PAs, they were all in D&H paint, which I have both sisters in that paint scheme. I even tried decaling one of them with the proper number to get a few of the other sisters. Unfortunately, he did not have a nickel plate road locomotive or a New York Central Alco PA at that time. He did have that unusual looking Alco RS2 from Kato, which is back in the Atlas Kato days. Kato apparently used the wrong shade of blue on that, as you see, which caused it to have a very unique appearance. The next booth was run by a local scenic railroad called the Saratoga, Corinne, and Hudson Railroad. In case anyone is wondering, this is in fact the successor to what was originally known as the Upper Hudson Railroad, which eventually became the Saratoga Northern Railroad. The only difference, unfortunately, is this railroad currently is not able to operate into North Creek.
I know the feeling. Yeah, and I have a YouTube channel. I'm the Alco Diesel guy.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard of me or not. I know him for my videos on RS3s. Oh yeah. Nice to meet you. Yeah, same here. Nice to meet you, sir.
Another note on this booth is that they had this operating modular layout that was actually up for sale. This next table had some 60s and 70s vintage Matchbox and Hot Wheels cars at it. Again, this seems to be taking off at these train shows. This vendor also had some micro machines, some of which were still boxed.
Amazing these things are still in the box after all these years.
This next table had some more vintage HO scale equipment kind of just jumbled together, with a few other items as well as scenery items and some accessories such as that operating long dump car, a classic in my opinion, and some N-scale scenery accessories as well. This next table I believe was run by a local hobby club. They had some vintage passenger cars which were actually wooden with a paper decal for decorations. They also had a few N-scale cars as well as some sort of random things such as these actual regular cars, toy cars next to it, and a few other coaches. This next table featured mainly HO scale scenery items as well as box cars, and I think one or two locomotives mixed in there. It also featured at the very end over here, as we see we're coming up on, some Lionel locomotives, steam engines, cranes, accessories, etc. Again, admittedly, I'm not so much into O scale, so I kind of skimmed over this as I did with most of the O scale stuff at the show. As you can see here, there was a few 2046 and 2036 sets locomotives over here. Again, Lionel identifies the set by the actual cab number on the engine. This next table again featured plenty of Lionel equipment, which is again very common on these shows, unfortunately more and more now, as well as some HO scale stuff mixed in. And on the far right of the table, we have some newer or brand new equipment mixed in with some used box cars, mainly from Bowser, it looks here, in terms of the newer equipment, and Walthers. This next table contained yet more Lionel equipment, as well as other O-scale manufacturers' equipment, and other miscellaneous things tossed in for good measure. This next table featured a lot of random railroad-themed items, including some Thomas the Tank Engine shirts.
Oh, you see Snoopy? That's cool, right?
This next table featured a few vintage videos and a few other miscellaneous items from the model railroad and railroad industry, including an old transformer, if you see right there on the left.
I still have one of them. I have it all set up, and I'm embarrassed to admit I don't use it very much except for converting tapes.
I like the VHS.
Yeah.
The DVD, it's a mixed thing. Boy, if you get a bad player or a bad disc, man, it freezes. Cheap.
Well, they're professionally made. They usually don't.
This gentleman also had a vintage B&O passenger set, which I believe was by Lifelike.
That freaks me out.
Yep. That's another. I've had the. Yeah, that's the way few things.
The only advantage the DVDs have is you can resurface it if it gets scratched.
Oh, yeah.
When the show was so busy, they had tables on the other side too. You couldn't even get through it all.
Is this for a Lionel over here, or?
Yes. You became in with a, and I cleaned up the terminals on it, but you know I haven't
Tested
I'd like
it.
to test it. There's a guy down there that's got the test track, and he may be able to see if it puts anything out. I plugged it in, but like I say,
Gotcha.
That's where all this stuff came from. And,
Life like tea kettle.
that's a
Yeah,
lifelike.
like tea kettle. Yeah, they call these the tea kettle.
Oh, okay. It's called. There was a
Tea
sign
kettle. Yep.
on it. Yeah.
That's what they call the set. Only Baltimore and Ohio coaches he's got with it too. Yeah.
These are nice cars. These cars need some new wheels and couplers or whatnot, but they're nice Riverossi cars. They're lighted cars, you know.
Yeah, probably a set of trucks on that one right here. You see it's broken off on the side there. It's repairable though.
It sucks, but it's just repairable.
This next table again featured a lot of Lionel O gauge, particularly these red and silver Santa Fe F3 units. Quite a few of them lined up here. They were going for $500 a piece, which, believe it or not, is actually a good price for those units, as I believe they now go for over $1,000. They also had some reasonable deals on streamlined passenger cars for these particular locomotives. They appeared to be a bunch of sets they were essentially selling, either in piecemeal or together, depending upon how you wanted to buy them.
This one is an Elko. That's a bargain. This is even worse. Excellent. One is a dummy.
This next gentleman had a lot of vintage HO scale equipment, including some PAs. I almost bought that New York Central one, but I wasn't sure if it was the one I had a number or not in my collection that I was planning to overhaul, so I'm hemmed and hawed on that and ended up not buying it. He also accepted PayPal and had some...
I hope it doesn't sink. I'll put it 2,000, okay. That's a put it 2,000. I actually think this, it could be wrong, but I think that's an Athlon over here.
What's that?
I think this is an Athlon.
I couldn't tell you. It says Pennsylvania on the tender. Yeah, Sorry?
Next table featured a lot of vintage railroad photographs as well as some newer photographs from railroads alike. This next table featured more Lionel items, most notably some from the Polar Express sets, which he was selling.
$289. That's what they cost. I mean, they're nice cars, but that's how much they are. And I got this set, and I got one more at the store, and that's all I got. And I got this, I got this car, and that's the other piece got there. And that's 17.
I was going to say, you guys have been in before. It's very familiar. How you doing today?
Pretty good. Pardon me. Sorry.
This next table was interesting because it actually featured modelers physically making models of railroad items at the show itself.
Here we are in the Highway of Advanced
I didn't get many good shots of this particular table this year. I did last year. Effectively, this was a little switching demonstration to show new model railroaders how to conduct switching operations.
Too many questions. Now, I spent 3 years.
This next table features some unique scenery items as well as some Atherin Blue Box items. Another HO scale unique stable.
I always say Bell Bev, even though I'm
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
keep going.
And now we come to the operating displays of the show.
Oh, sure.
I will admit that I found a lot of them had been apparently downsized. I'm not sure what happened here. But it seems for whatever reason, most of the N-scale exhibitors in particular were cut by about 30% to half of what they were last year in terms of their sizes. That included the N-Trax.
Those are
and the
BLIs,
other
right?
New York Central Modeling Club that also is based around Schenectady.
That's called a shark nose.
Yeah. Whatever that is. There's a shark nose.
That's the engine. If you watch on the front, you'll see what I'm talking about. It looks like a shark. As a oh, by the way, this is the shark nose, Dad. That's what a shark nose looks like.
Okay. I'll get you, I'm on
Yep.
the phone anyway.
Okay. Pardon me, I'm sorry.
How do you call it?
Yeah, right now they're just running on.
So it looks like a real, otherwise working out. But it wasn't just self-powered by the
They call it the Roger Williams, yeah?
Yeah. But it didn't have the rocket on it.
Wait, that was a little bit different, yeah?
Yeah, that's a little different.
Yep. That was that rocket test train, pardon me. Yeah, I think they did 150. I think they got it to do on the tracks. 200,
Yeah.
something like that. 2 jet engines. Amtrak had turbos too, but they weren't nearly as fast.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, they ran them on the slowest tracks they had when they had them, with the exception of the Albany part of the corridor.
Yeah.
Circus train. Amtrak circus train is set. Race of RS3s.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, this one. Alright. Really?
This particular display proved very interesting to me because it was actually built together by an actual subscriber who salvaged it from its original owner. This gentleman goes by the YouTube name of Caboose1973. I'll place a link in my description to show you how to get there if you'd like to subscribe, and I would encourage all my subscribers to do so.
That's a custom train man right here, right?
Yeah. It was operating on the inner track closest to the cooling tower, but kept the rail inside. I threw the switches. Everything is remotely controlled here. Oh, here we go. Some Delaware and Hudson fans.
Oh yeah.
I grew up during the good old days of the DNH before Guilford.
Before the good
running on DC. All right.
Have to run, it's close to have to watch the video of the telephone. That's what they totally is they're running out of the shot. They'll have to explain to the this is the either Brian or Brown has to use the most
Yeah. Champion crown jack.
Teeny tiny. What are those? Teeny tiny on scale.
I did. Sorry about that. It was too loud. Yeah, I'm on the layouts. I'm going to film a little bit more and I'll be right out. I just stopped one last second. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just filming. I'm just going to finish up filming. Okay. All right. Bye. Works good. You're off the track. Ooh, you're off again. Ooh. This is not a happy engine, is it?
This switch has been giving us a little bit of problem.
Oh yeah, you're bent. It's actually bent here. You got an arc on it. Your switch is bent here. It literally is. It's like arced. Oh wait, but that is right here. This track right here, it's arced. You see it's bent up? Yeah, there you go.
Wow, look at that. That is interesting. So these are spacer modules. This is where
where it joins,
it comes apart and
yeah, that's a stress point.
yeah, but we have that's really interesting because that has not been like that. Faster. Yes. Sometimes you need more people for that. Yeah.
Did you have a bigger display last year, or is it just me?
We had a different display last year, and it was bigger as a result.
Catching this subtle little detail housed in that building exposed another one of my hobbies.
Alright, what's with the dude in the...
It's Matt's nod to anime.
Yeah, that's actually a Gundam, I think. Yeah, if I remember correctly, that's from the original Gundam 1979. 0079, as they called it, I think. Am I right?
There we go.
I'm an anime buff.
We don't need Matt.
With the original Amuro Ray and everything else, yeah.
Not everyone notices that.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a geek, so it's part of my territory. I better know this or I can be disowned. By the community, I mean. This is New Haven job run? Oh, those are nice coaches on that. What are those, Rapidos? Huh.
Right, so that's a different scale. John, how are you? Good.
Just curious, are these Rapido coaches hooked up to that F unit over here? Or?
You're right. Yep, and it's a Rapido engine.
Those are the Comet coaches, right? Yeah.
The Comet coaches, right, in a mix of the Connecticut and New York liveries.
Yeah, I ride that train a lot sometimes with Hudson, yeah.
What's this? The junkyard? Yeah. Oh, it's cars.
The smashed up cars, yep. They're being recycled, they've been crushed.
Okay.
There's a magnetic crane over there too, pulling stuff out.
Yep. There's out over there with the light on. It's got light on it. This? Yeah. This is an RDC car. It's a rail diesel passenger car, which we had out running earlier. Is it on a track? Is it getting worked on, or is it just... This is at the station. Waiting for dispatch. I met a guy that worked on the trains in New York. I won't ask him more, but I couldn't.
To get that shot. It looked like it was good that time. There's another display on the right. Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. Yeah. I'm sorry if I kept you out late, Dad. Look at how smooth that runs. And amazing thing is this is all made of Lego. This is mostly made of Lego bricks, which is the crazy thing, Dad. Can you believe that? I secretly always wanted one of these as a kid, but I knew it wasn't practical, so I never asked for it. What I should have done when I was younger is ask for more N-scale stuff. That would have worked. When I was in the city, I had more room. Just this one over here, this other display there, if we could. Sorry. I need to make one last stop after this. That's it.
You got what?
I'm going to make one last stop in the hobby section here to see if they have something. I just need to get a decoder, and then we're done.
And that's going to do it for my coverage of the 2025 Great Train Extravaganza held
And we
again
literally
at
closed the
Albany
place
Convention
down.
Center in the Egg.
We closed
Now
the place
let's take a
down.
look
It's
at my
5. It's
haul.
over.
Not this
it's
haul,
4:58.
actual trains I bought, I should say.
Sorry I kept you so long, Dad, but I appreciate you putting up with me. Well, that was quite a train show this year. I'm kind of disappointed in how much in terms of train displays they had again. And ironically enough, although the vendors were actually pretty good in my opinion. In fact, I think there was a little bit more than last year, except one of the guys I usually see there every year wasn't there. I hope he's okay. Anywho, let's go ahead and take a look and see what I got. Okay, so beginning with that first particular vendor I stopped at, as you probably guessed, just go in order here of what I picked up from the train show. Over here I have a box of random box cars. You see they're wrapped up very nicely for me. They're from Atlas. These are older cars. What I plan to do, of course, is upgrade these, which will be interesting considering I found out more. I also found out, unfortunately, that Microtrains, the company I use to buy the trucks from, is apparently not going to be around much longer. It's been bought out by Atlas. I did, however, buy as many of these cheap Atlas box cars as possible because these happen to be the easiest to modify into modern ones. I plan to weigh these down and put modern trucks on them. I do have a bunch of those trucks in stock that I bought for myself over the not those recent months, but like but like a couple months back during the summer and stuff. I bought a few of those. So I should be able to hopefully pull those projects off. Let's see, what else did I get here? Then I stopped at that other N-scale retailer. I made a few stops by him. Bought a brand new crossover switch, single crossover switch. Oh, I should mention these cars. They were about... I'm not exactly sure what the pricing was on these, the prices in retrospect. I think I paid something like $6 a piece, or 3 for $15 or something like that. I think it was 3 for $15 on all the ones I managed to pick up. I did see a couple of smaller passenger cars I was tempted on, but they were a little bit more expensive, and I decided I didn't need them just yet. So, anyway, pretty happy with those purchases. Next, I stopped at one of the N-scale retailers that had vendors that was set up here, and I got this crossover switch from that guy. Let me move these out of the way. These are actually from the later part of it. This is a single crossover. I have one of those on the back of my Christmas layout over here. It's been acting weird. To be honest, I picked it up last year from eBay because I needed it desperately. I didn't realize I needed it. Otherwise, I would have bought it last year at the train show at the Great Train Extravaganza. But when I got it, it didn't work. And I had to mess with it to get it to work. I had to take it apart and fix it. And it's still not quite 100%, which is why I bought another one of these. So if it does go out during the Christmas time, I now have a replacement on hand from Kato. And this is Kato Unitracks, I should make clear. Also from that guy, I bought a few extension wires. I always need these wires. I just don't want to solder on this layout because of its temporary nature. I don't want to do any kind of soldering. This just makes it easier. So I bought a bunch of these terminals here. One for a switch. These blue ones are for power. The other two is for the switches. You can actually interchange them because they work basically the same. But it's a better idea, obviously, to keep the color coding wherever you can, so it's easy to trace your wiring down. Believe me, I learned that the hard way this year when I had to trace my wiring and put everything back together.
Let's see, what else did I get? Then around the back of the, and I think I'm actually out of order. I think I got these before that one, but I'll just show them to you now anyway. Pardon me for getting a little bit out of order here, but that's just how it worked out. What I have over here now is a few items I bought from a hobbyist that was on the back of the layout of the actual train show, and one of those in the back part of the egg there. They have this sort of bigger room it's actually not a separate room, it's just a bigger sort of enclave, if you will. The whole building kind of goes further back and deeper. Anyway, this guy was set up there. He was just a hobbyist selling his old stuff off. This is an RS2, which of course I had to have. It's Kato, 8219. It has DCC on board. The price was $50, but I got the price down to $40 for it, so there was no way I was going to say no to that. These engines have a bit of a reputation because of their rather infamous couplers. I see this still has its original ones on. I don't know how he ran this one with those couplers on it, because these are known for pushing trains off the track. Anyway, I will be upgrading these couplers to, especially since the gentleman also ran on very tight turns, even tighter than mine. Whatever the case, I'm going to be upgrading these to microtrains couplers. I do have some in stock. I did kind of stockpile those, and I do have, again, some more stocks on that, and I've actually was able to get a hold of more, fingers crossed, that those actually do ship. I do have my fingers crossed and my toes that they will ship, that because I bought up as the couplers, that is to say that they will in fact arrive. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it'd be great if it did. I do actually have couplers for this. My fingers are crossed that they will actually ship. I put some on order. I think it was with the Yankee Dabbler. He had them in stock, the 2004-1 couplers, the pre-assembled ones. I do have them in kit form, but I wouldn't dare try to assemble that. My eyes are going, and it's just too tedious to assemble them. I don't think I could ever pull that off. Another thing I picked up, just 2 small turn tracks. I always need these. They were $3. I figured I'd grab them, and I think I got these for $2. Just a little side add-on thing. Not much. The gentleman also had some tracks and switches, but I actually am pretty good on switches this year because I bought a whole bunch of them. And I also found a cache that somehow or other got hidden from me. We were doing a little cleanup jobs, and it kind of got buried, and I didn't realize I had them. So I'm actually really good with switches so far this year right now. Oh, and this one is actually, I went back to the same person I bought the freight cars earlier from and acquired this other locomotive from the guy. This is an Atlas GP7. One of the main reasons why I bought this is, and this is kind of crazy, I actually have quite a few decoders for this particular locomotive in stock. I bought a whole bunch of decoders for a particular project, thinking they were one type of decoder for the standard sort of model that goes in the U23Bs, 25Bs, and a few other models that work with, as well as the RS11s, the C420s. That's one common type decoder, but there's another type decoder that fits in these type engines, and unfortunately, I, instead of buying the one for the other engines, bought it for this particular type engine, and I now have too many of those sitting around. So, that's going to go in this particular locomotive. I got it right here. And thinking about it, I just thought of it now. I should have probably bought a GP30 the guy had, because that would have worked with it. Although, to be honest, that's not one of the engines I'm crazy about. So it kind of works out. Then there was another N-scale retailer who had some microtrain stuff. I was able to get a hold of this boxcar. It's an older run. It was brand new as far as I can tell. This cost me $17. And this I also picked up from the guy. This is $31. It's a pretty cool looking tank car. I just had to have one. I like tank cars. I'm going to hopefully get more of these in service now. I haven't really run them very much. Again, microtrains, since they're literally going to be going extinct soon, or possibly, well, not completely, I should say. Atlas is taking them over. We don't know exactly how it's going to be done. We don't know if they're going to be running the microtrains trucks with their cars, or they're going to switch to Accumate trucks and their usual Atlas stuff, which isn't that great compared to microtrains. I mean, you just can't compare them. But anyway, stay tuned on that. I'm going to be putting a video together to show what I have and as much resources as I can gather for that. Then I made another stop back at the gentleman that sold me these parts over here, and decided to grab this. This is a C4. This is a, pardon me, what am I saying? C420. This is an N scale DCC and sound equipped H1644. I don't know as of the time I'm making this video if that is the same one I've been running around this layout here, which I should have this video out to you by the time I'm showing this. whether this is the same number as 7011. If it is, I'm not going to be happy. This was not exactly a cheap engine as it has DCC and sound on board. What I'm hoping, if that is the case where I did double buy things by mistake, I can take this DCC and sound equipped chassis and swap it into another one of these that I acquired from the previous run, which I got a great deal on from eBay. I got it for about $50 with shipping and taxes. If that all works out, I can, and I hopefully can, if this doesn't work out, that is to say, if the one on the layout is the same number, hopefully I can swap the chassis out on that one, because I don't have a decoder available for it currently, and just make that one a DCC and sound equipped one, because the main reason being is, while there are decoders that will fit this model, it's very difficult to get all the fancy lights on them. The H1644s, in fact, I'll show you, have extra lights on them. If I can get this open, there we go. If you look here, they have this extra set of lights that are sort of classification lights. They go red and green depending upon what direction the engine is running in. And obviously, if they're... Get my camera to cooperate here. And obviously, that requires a lot more wiring and stuff. The standard headlights for an Atlas decoder and or a C420 decoder that would run on something like this do not include that. They just have sort of white lights, and that's it. So you don't get those lights to work. The newest run, however, does have these lights enabled with the sound equipped versions. The DCC ready ones, you can sort of make them work. I've tried it and I've had mixed results with it. But anywho, that's the deal with that one. So hopefully I don't have this engine. Hopefully I don't have this number. If I do, hopefully I can swap it out and make another locomotive I do have coming in. Work with DCC and sound. That'll be really great. Over here we have another nice little set of gondola cars. Again, these are old school ones. I just saw them. I thought this would be a nice little add-on to my N-scale stuff. Now, I think these went for $28. Yep, $28. And the gentleman actually accepted PayPal, which is really simple to work with. There, I literally zapped a QR code into my phone, sent the money to the guy, and I was off and running. It was really simple to do that. Made the transaction instead of always having to have all that cash around, because a lot of this stuff, again, if those of you not familiar, trains are usually use a lot of cash involved, and I don't necessarily mind it, but the only catch is you have to pull the cash, you have to have the cash on hand, and you have to watch your budget, because you can literally run out of cash. It's not a thing where you can just pull your charge card out and just say, hey, I'll take that. Some vendors now take it more and more, but not everyone does. So thank you, $28. I thought those were worth it. I'm not sure if I'm going to overhaul these trucks. I probably will on these, or just run them with their classic couplers and everything else, and just use them as sort of a train to run around statically around the layout, just to give myself some more rolling stock to have. Okay, what next? Then I made a stop at another vendor and bought something completely out of tune, I guess, for model railroad show, for lack of a better word, for hobby show, I should say, / train show. I got myself this. This is the railroad that took over the former Upper Hudson Railroad, which now calls themselves the Saratoga and Hudson Railroad. They are not operating as I thought they were through the entire original route that the Upper Hudson did. They call themselves the Saratoga. They're not doing North Creek right now, but they call themselves the Saratoga, Corinth, and Hudson Railroad. This is a picture of their RS3 number 4103. Those of you who think this looks kind of familiar, it should, because in fact this engine was on the Delaware and Lackawanna up until more recent times, and that railroad decided to get rid of them. And I believe the reason was, from what I understand from my sources, that the crews did not like them because they weren't as comfortable. Again, these engines I don't even think had bathrooms in them. They were very much more crude accommodations. They weren't as warm in the winters. They just really were not up to modern standards. Anywho, it's good to see this engine's around now and back running on its home turf, because this is one of the former Delaware and Hudson branches where I believe this engine used to run. So it's great to see that is now back in service. I'm also happy to hear that one of the RS-36s that was stored there for years has finally been moved off the property and apparently is in good hands now. So that's something I didn't know. I'm very happy to hear about it. Okay, and finally, last but not least, I made one last purchase on I made a few, actually not last but least, I actually have a few more, pardon me, losing my mind. I made a stop at another gentleman on the way out, outside of the egg itself. This guy had this particular engine for sale. This is an RS11. Of course, I had to have it in D&H. There's no way I'm not going to get that. I have two of these engines. Both of them are missing railings. And I kid you not. I don't know how this is possible. One year I was at the train show. I bought one from a gentleman that looked like it was in really great shape, but in fact, it didn't have its railings. I had bought another one earlier, about a year or two before that, and it also was missing one of its railing sections. Both of them were missing the same size railing, which is the crazy thing. Both of them had the same number. You just can't make this up, and I have not been able to run either one because it just doesn't look right missing that railing. I tried, I think, to fix one of them, and I just could not make it work. I wasn't sure what to do, so now I've got yet another locomotive, which I'm hoping has everything working great on it. The gentleman said it ran great. I believe this can be DCC swapped. It should be able to be, because it is the newer run of this. But anywho, yep, I was able to get a hold of this. He wanted $65 with it. What I was able to do, though, is he had a few other parts there. I was able to get this boxcar and this other freight car, if I can find what I did with it. Ooh, here it is. This actually had some damage, but I was able to snap the door back in. And this particular Microtrains boxcar, see, this was 5 and that was 8. He bundled the whole package together for me for $70, which worked out. So I got all 3 of these for $70, which I thought was a pretty good deal. And this engine itself is becoming hard to come by in any way, shape, or form. I'd probably pay over $100 just to get the engine itself by itself. And I was able to get this all for $70, so that really works out. So that was an excellent deal. I should say on eBay, that's what it would normally go for. Now, finally, last but not least, this time for sure, I stopped in the little hobby outlet thing on the way out. I didn't quite find everything I needed on this train show. Mainly, pardon my annoying camera work here. Mainly wheels for my Microtrains couplers and Microtrains couplers in general. Everything, no one bothered. Apparently, everyone either sold out of them or didn't bring them. However, I was able to finally nail these wheels here, which I needed desperately. These are replacement wheels for Microtrains cars. I'm not sure what size I needed, so I bought them both because I did not want to run out. So I got both the 33 and the 36. I'm not sure if you can use which will work with what, or if you can just use them and just being a preference. Whatever the case, I bought them both. So I bought a bunch of each of them, 36 as well as 33 inch. I think I got the same amount for both, so I can keep them together. There's some of them, so I'm going to have to make sure I keep these trucks separate depending upon how they operate. These are the 36-inch wheels. These are the 33-inch. I have 3 33 inches and 2 36 inches. So I don't know which is right for it. I just went ahead and gambled and bought what I saw there. And hopefully I'll find that I can use them all. I also bought from the same outfit one more terminal power thing. $4, kind of steep, but I just wanted to make sure I had enough of these because I don't want to have to order them in. It's a real pain. And finally, last but certainly not least, the very last thing I had to get, I bought some of these rail uni-joiner things for Kato. These work with both HONN scale. That's why they call them uni-joiners. I have a whole bunch of them that have failed on my tracks over the years, and I keep forgetting to buy these things. I had one of these sitting someplace. I can't find it. They had them there, so I bought 2 of them just to make sure I wouldn't run out, because that would bring me mentally to the end of my wits if I wasn't able to get it. If I wasn't able to get them or I needed them, and it was stopping me from running my train. So that won't happen now. So that kind of covers everything I bought. But it was a pretty darn good show this year. It's just too bad the display scenes weren't as big as they were last year. Not sure what happened there, whether it was a permitting thing or whether they thought they were going to have more people, or whether, I should say, displays and what someone had to pull out. End tracks was particularly small. I was really shocked with how small they were. The other outfits seemed to have the same size, but the 2 end scale layouts were seemingly, from what I could tell, noticeably shrunk in size. Not sure what happened there. One of the few things I wish I could have done, which I should have done last year, in my video, I prominently showed the C420s that were for sale. I should have bought those, but the gentleman didn't bring them this year, as it turns out. I really wish that was the same outfit I bought these 2 Microtrains cars from. I really wish I had bought them last year now, because I could use that mixed power for my Christmas layout. Luckily, he spoke to me and he said he might have them, so I'm going to give the guy an email and see. He told me to email him. He gave me his contact info on one of his sheet things here on his flyer. I'm going to go ahead and contact him and see if he has them for sale, and maybe see if I can get them in here, because I really would like to have more of those available to run, because I do a lot of mixed traffic on this layout here for the Christmas display. That'd be a nice little add-on, especially considering it's New York Central, and with the merger of the Penn Central, they had access to both trains, so that'd give it a nice little crossover bit of motive power. So anyway, that's pretty much what I purchased on the train show. So I hope everyone enjoyed the coverage of, and I hope everyone enjoyed the coverage of the video I made of this. Anyway, that's going to do it for the train show for this year and the video I made on it. Hope everyone enjoyed this. It took a little work to film this, so if you liked it, give it a thumbs up and a like. Anyway, that's going to do it for this Anyway, that's going to do it for my coverage Anyway, that's going to do it for my coverage of this year's Albany Train Extravaganza for 2025. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, as that will help me greatly, and comment, as well as sub. Thanks very much for watching, and as always, keep the metal side down.